Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. Today we are filming my third and final pregnancy update recap video, which is so crazy to me. I obviously am still pregnant. However, this morning I wasn't sure if that was going to be the case. I woke up kind of in some weird discomfort, and I kind of thought I might be going into labor, but that was a long time ago and nothing has changed, and I feel totally fine. So I'm still pregnant as of this time, but I'm officially 39 weeks today. Obviously at this point 39 weeks is considered a full term, but I definitely wanted to make sure that I filmed this video while I was still pregnant. And obviously no one can be exactly sure when they're going to have the baby at this point. We do have our induction scheduled, so technically I know a deadline. I know when he will definitely be born by at the latest, but obviously this morning sort of showed me I could technically have him anytime, which is weird because when you have an induction scheduled, I feel like you just kind of automatically assume that that's when the baby's coming, and don't really think about the fact that it being scheduled doesn't really keep him from coming before then. So in my head I'm like, oh, we have a countdown, we have a certain amount of days, but obviously in reality he could literally show up whenever he wants. So I figured today was a good day to sit down, especially because I'm officially 39 weeks today. So I'm officially full term, which I'm so thankful for. I feel like we all just pray and pray and pray for a full term baby and a full term pregnancy. So I'm so thankful to have made it all the way to 39 weeks. And honestly, I don't have a feeling that he's coming early, so I think we'll probably make it to 40 weeks too. I also just want to quickly say my videos are kind of all over the place in terms of when I'm filming them and when I'm posting them. For obvious reasons, I'm kind of pre-filming so I can, take some time off from filming and editing when the little guy gets here, and who knows how much of that I'll even be able to do. But I've gotten a couple new cameras that I'm trying out and sort of trying to decide what I'm keeping and all that kind of stuff. So all that to say, I'm filming on one of my new cameras and I'm still figuring out the settings and the audio and all that different stuff. And honestly, yesterday I was so frustrated, and because I'm this pregnant, I'm very emotional, and I was literally crying over how frustrated I was over trying to figure out what settings to use, and the footage that I had filmed did not come out how I wanted it to, and it was a whole thing when you're used to one camera for the longest time and then you switch it up. Even though it's the same brand and everything, it's a little bit frustrating trying to learn something totally new, and I don't know, you just are so used to your old way that trying to do it differently, it's Anyway, if the lighting or the picture quality or the audio or anything is a little bit weird or off, I apologize. I'm really working on it. So we're gonna go through, just like we've done in the last couple versions of this video. If y'all haven't seen those, I will link my first trimester and my second trimester recaps down below. It still blows my mind that I'm filming my third trimester recap. It is so crazy. I cannot believe we are here at this point in pregnancy. I feel like I've probably said that in all those other two videos too. It just seems like such a big milestone. But at the same time, obviously y'all are seeing this long after I film it. Maybe not long after, but obviously delayed. And I'm sure he's probably born by the time this is going up. But I've been pregnant for all of 2021. For the most part, which is crazy. When you think about it that way, I've been pregnant for such a long time, but I'm not sick of it or anything. I feel like maybe I'll kind of start with that, because I feel like a lot of people towards the end of their pregnancy are just sick of being pregnant, or whatever, they just really want to have the baby. And of course I really want to have him and just experience a childbirth and labor and meet him and get my hands on him and see what he looks like. All of those things I'm so excited for, but pregnancy just doesn't bother me at all. Even at this point, I'm really not sleeping, and I will get into all the symptoms and everything that's going on. But I feel like my main update that I want to share is that I've just really loved being pregnant, and I'm not sick of it, and I'm totally fine if he wants to stick around for another week. Other than the fact that he's kind of big, which we'll also get into, I really just kind of want to get him out of me for that sake, so that he doesn't keep getting bigger and make it harder for me. But generally speaking, I really don't mind being pregnant. I really love being pregnant. I love my pregnant body. I've really just embraced it, and I don't love everything about it. If you've been pregnant, there's some parts that are not easy to love, but generally speaking, I'm so here for it. I'm not in a rush to get it over with. I'm not dying to just not be pregnant anymore. I'm really here for it. So I feel like that's kind of maybe a little bit of an uncommon sentiment. I'm so okay with the fact that I'm still pregnant, even though I really want to meet him. I'm equally feeling both. I also should mention, because y'all will probably see me hold my phone up a lot in this video, I'm not sponsored by or affiliated with Loopy at all, but I just got this case and I purchased it because I heard so many horror stories of moms dropping their phones on their baby's face when they're taking pictures of them. And I'm obviously going to be taking copious amounts of pictures, probably a disgusting amount of pictures. And this is the iPhone 13 Pro Max, so this is the biggest, heaviest phone, and I drop it, not drop it all the time, but I almost drop it on my own face all the time, so I feel like it's extremely likely I will drop it on my baby's head or face, and this probably will weigh half what he weighs when he's born. Like, this is just so big and heavy. So I thought it was time to get the loopy case so that I can just not worry about accidentally, you know, dropping this and smushing his face when I'm taking pictures. So I will link this down below if y'all are interested, or if like you're a new mom or you're about to be a new mom and you didn't realize that that's a thing. I didn't know that was a thing, and then I realized that. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm 1000% gonna drop my phone on him. So I went for it and got one of the cases that would help protect me and him from doing that, and I feel like it's just kind of a game changer. It's amazing. It's a really good quality case. Anyway, I figured I would just mention it since I'm gonna probably be holding it up a lot in this video. So without further ado, we'll get started at week 28, which was when I left off in my last video at the end of week 27. I feel like for the second trimester and even the first, it's a little bit kind of like subjective when they start and when they end, like depending on what apps you're using and all that kind of stuff. So week 28 was when my belly button really started changing. I used to have the innie, and then by like week 28 it was like flush, and right now it's like basically flush. It's like almost an outie. It just got pushed so far from being an innie that now it's just like the same level as the rest of my belly, and it's just like a different texture than the rest of my belly too. So my belly button just feels so different, looks so different, and that all started kind of like right in the beginning of the third trimester. I was still like a little bit constipated at times, but I was really excited because movement was like movement of the baby, not of me, but his movement was getting a lot easier to see and was like more noticeable from the outside. I feel like for most of the obviously second trimester, whenever you can start feeling them move, I was really only feeling him like from the inside and from the outside through my hand, but like starting kind of in this very beginning of the third trimester, I could actually like see little kicks and like little rumbles and stuff more often from the outside, and that is so much fun for your spouse or, you know, your significant other or whoever, and even for you, just like watch your belly move around and jiggle around. It's honestly probably been my top favorite part of pregnancy, is not just feeling him but also like seeing the movements. It is like unlike any other feeling in the world. I had the nursery 100% completed by week 28, which is funny, like fully decorated, like drawers and closets like filled, cleaned, washed, ready to move in by week 28. And we also had an OB appointment that week. I was measuring 3.5 weeks ahead at that appointment, and that like really stressed me out. I actually remember like crying a whole bunch because I was like, oh my gosh, why am I measuring like almost a month ahead? Is he super big? Am I super big? I was really scared that I was gonna have gestational diabetes because I was just like, it seemed like that was just the only answer. But I did have my gestational diabetes like glucose test that week, and I passed. I didn't have to do the 3-hour one or anything, thank goodness. So at least we didn't have to worry about that, or, you know, dealing with any of the symptoms or regulation of that for myself or for him. I kind of like stressed myself out and cried and freaked out for no reason because it wasn't that big of a deal, but at the same time I was still a little bit curious and like a little concerned why I was measuring so far ahead. But we'll get more into that as we go through. And also that drink really wasn't bad at all. I actually enjoyed the drink personally. So for anyone that like freaks you out about the drink, literally don't worry about it. It's honestly pretty good. Starting around like week 29, I feel like whether his position changed or he just was big enough to, he started really kicking me like in the ribs and even in like the kidneys. Like whenever he would do like a significant movement, it would like, not only was it very noticeable, but it would like legitimately hurt. Like I would have to reposition, or I would just like literally say ouch. His movements actually started ramping up and hurting me by week 29, and I couldn't like sit right. Like I literally had to like sit up in certain positions at certain times because it literally felt like he was in my rib cage, so I couldn't like bend the same way. And it's not like that anymore now that he's so much bigger, but when they're kind of still like able to move around a good amount, they can get their feet or their hands or whatever in weird places, and it was definitely uncomfortable. I feel like I started noticing like a tiny bit of swelling, but not really much. We'll get into that more. My weight gain definitely seemed to have slowed down a little bit at that point. Not that I was like rapidly gaining weight, but I feel like it started to like kind of level out a little bit. Obviously, you still gain weight throughout the third trimester, but I feel like it wasn't as like consistent as before. However, his activity was definitely a lot more consistent. I feel like throughout a lot of the second trimester, once you start feeling the baby move, you just like want to feel them move all the time. And if you don't feel them move for like any certain amount of time, you get kind of like worried, even though typically there's nothing to worry about and they're just sleeping or you're just not noticing it. But he was getting to the point where he was so big that I could feel, I feel like just about everything he was doing, and it was a lot more consistent, so it helped me worry a lot less. I feel like this is when I started having like these hot like sweat flashes where I would sweat, and that has not gone away. And I did read and I have heard that you will never sweat more in your life than you do in the third trimester of pregnancy, and that is 1050% true. too. That's probably one of the symptoms that I'm like the most sick of, is sweating. My feet, my hands, just everywhere. I want to like wear a sweatshirt and I want to be cozy. I do not want to be sweating so much, and I feel like that's been one of the most annoying things. It's just being clammy all the time, no matter what. No matter how much clothes I have on, and I will still be sweating no matter what. Oh, this was the week that he started having hiccups, or at least that I started noticing him having hiccups. I could kind of tell where he was because I could feel the hiccups in a certain area, and I felt like he was sort of more at an angle with like his feet up under my ribs, and I could kind of feel his torso kind of like lower down. Ever since he started, excuse my cats, ever since he started having hiccups at 29 weeks, he has never stopped. He literally hiccups, like there was a time where he was hiccuping like multiple times a day. It's kind of like leveled out a little bit now at this point, but I have a hiccuper going on for sure. I'm still having, I think I mentioned this in my second trimester recap, but the outer just like edge of my right thigh, kind of like where your IT band is, gets numb pretty much all the time. Like it just falls asleep, kind of like pins and needles style. And that honestly happened occasionally even before pregnancy. Like if I would just be sitting for a long time, I don't know if it's a circulation thing or a nerve thing or what, but like in long car rides I would notice that. But ever since being pregnant, like, you know, decently pregnant at some point in the second trimester, my leg just right out there in that section started falling asleep all the time. And it was still happening. It's still happening to this day. And it's like not painful or anything, but it's just uncomfortable and kind of annoying and just like noticeable. And I wish it didn't do that. So hopefully that stopped once he's born, but who knows. Oh, we started doing perineal massages. If you don't know what that is, like look it up, but it's supposed to help with tearing, to avoid as much tearing as possible when you're giving birth vaginally. And it was definitely weird and uncomfortable to try the first couple of times. I had my husband do it, I tried to do it, and now we've just been having him do it every time just because it's a little bit uncomfortable for me to like reach in the way that I need to. My doctor says that it's legit, like it actually will help, and we've been doing it for so long, I'll even just say that now. It really hurt and was very uncomfortable when we started doing it, whenever that was, week 29, but now it's like not uncomfortable at all. I mean, okay, it's not comfortable. It is uncomfortable, but it is nowhere near what it was back then. Like it doesn't bother me as much, it doesn't hurt as much. You can stretch it a lot more than he could before. So I think it really does actually help like loosen those muscles up and stretch them out and kind of like get them ready for whatever trauma they're about to go through. So I actually really do recommend, obviously ask your doctor, but based on everything I've read and what my doctor said, it actually is like a legitimate thing to help with tearing. And I've noticed like a significant difference, at least so far that we've been doing it, which I guess is about 10 weeks at this point. And I just put, this is just kind of cheesy, but when I'm just like laying in bed or sitting somewhere and I just feel him like rumble or tumble or kind of wriggle under my hand, I swear y'all, I cheese out like nobody's business. I get the biggest, cheesiest smile on my face, and sometimes I'll just start giggling or laughing because I just get such a kick out of feeling him move, and just like these little boops and like little things that you'll feel under your hand. It is the most magical thing ever, and it's honestly just so funny because I don't even know what he's doing. Like I don't know what body part it is or like how he's moving or like why he's moving like that. Is he reacting to something? Is he even like awake at all? But it's just such a cool feeling, and it honestly, it cracks me up. Week 30, I put more little hiccups. So dang cute. Like I said, he hiccuped a lot, and honestly it got to the point pretty early probably where you could just see my stomach just like boop, boop. My stomach would just ever so slightly kind of like bounce when he would hiccup, whether that's from like his back kind of pushing against it or whatever, but you could see him hiccuping in addition to feel it. So I went back to the doctor at this point, and I was still measuring 32 weeks, which is what I had been measuring at 28 weeks. So I was only 1.5 weeks ahead at that point instead of being 3.5 weeks ahead. I kind of freaked out, like I told y'all, whenever I was measuring so far ahead at that appointment, but then my measurements didn't change 2 weeks later. So I feel like, and they say this, of course, those fundal height measurements are just very rough measurements, and they can be altered by a lot of things. Even if the baby's position is just a little funny, they can kind of make things seem different or more off than they actually are. So I was a little relieved that I hadn't like grown a whole bunch, and I was back within like the normal range, like being 1.5 weeks early, like measuring 1.5 weeks early is not crazy. I felt better. So a lot of things can contribute to how I'm measuring, and I'm not gonna really put too much weight on that. So then going into week 31, this is a really big tip that I have, and I don't know if I mentioned this in my second trimester video or not, but I was starting to have really bad heartburn in the second trimester, like to the point where I felt like I wanted to puke. I never actually did, but my doctor said rather than taking a ton of Tums, which can cause kidney stones or gallstones or something like that, my doctor recommended instead of taking a ton of Tums, just to start taking Pepsid like once a day. And so I actually just started making it a routine to take it at 5 o'clock every night, so kind of like right before I would like start making dinner or eat dinner. And I literally put that I had no heartburn heartburn, like literally no heartburn since I started doing that. So I highly recommend, and I still do that now. I don't have as much heartburn now that he's dropped down. It's like a little bit less pressure on your esophagus or whatever, so it's typically less of an issue. Oh, there he is. It's typically less of an issue towards like the end of pregnancy, but I definitely recommend just do Pepcid. Don't even mess with Tums, because I ended up having to take them so often, and just take it once a day. It's totally safe for that, and it literally like gets ahead of my heartburn and completely eliminated the problem. It was amazing. And this was the first week I was like, I'm pretty positive I'm having Braxton Hicks. I had noticed like occasionally my stomach would feel really hard and stuff, but I honestly just thought that was like my uterus. Like your uterus does get hard when you're pregnant, obviously, but Braxton Hicks level hard is like a whole nother ballgame. I swear it literally feels like I have a gigantic boulder. I'm having one right now, for example, and I'm pushing on my stomach, and it's just rock hard, like cement hard. You cannot put any pressure on it. And this was the first week when I was like positive that I was having Braxton Hicks, because I didn't really notice them, like other than feeling my stomach. I didn't feel it like just from sitting there. I didn't feel it coming on or starting or stopping. The only way I would even know I was having a Braxton Hicks was if I would literally push on my belly. It wasn't bothering me. It really wasn't very noticeable. I would kind of just like accidentally notice that I was having one, but it took me until I was 31 weeks to notice them. So I don't know if they were happening a ton before, but by 31 weeks, I was sure I was having Braxton Hicks. And I got kind of excited, honestly. I was like, wow, like, I feel like this is a level. Like this is a significant level in pregnancy when you start having like the fake, you know, contractions. So I was kind of excited. I started to feel like I had to pee a lot more. Like even though my bladder didn't feel super full, I kind of just felt like I had to pee more often, and it would just be smaller amounts. We had our last high-risk OB appointment during week 31, so we did like an ultrasound and the 3D ultrasound. He was already head down, which was really exciting. He was already like in birth position, and he had tons of hair. I'm sure I vlogged that, so I'll link that vlog with like all the info, but he had a lot of hair. He was only in the 68th percentile now instead of the 75th, so he wasn't like quite as big, or he wasn't running quite as big at that appointment, which was kind of reassuring. And the doctor estimated like based on how much he weighed, he would come out around 8.5 pounds, which honestly I think is kind of what he's on track for right now. So she might have been totally right. And that was our last like high risk appointment, which was kind of a big deal to sort of like graduate from that kind of doctor and just go to your regular OB. That kind of felt like a big deal, but it was also weird. Like that was our last appointment there. It always feels like you always have like more and more appointments, and then you get towards the end of your pregnancy and you're like, oh my gosh, there's like lasts of things now, which just feels crazy. And obviously at that point he was just so big that it was just unlikely that he was gonna get out of position. So he's definitely been head down since at least week 31, but honestly probably before that. I also made a note that my Braxton Hicks were happening especially in the afternoon/evening, which is still pretty true. And then I started having like some pretty noticeable belly button pain, which apparently is also normal, but it didn't like hurt from the outside. It almost hurt from the inside, but it was only in the belly button area. And I looked it up, and apparently that's normal just from like the stretching and whatever else, but I thought that was kind of a random thing to experience. And also week 31 is when I finished packing our hospital bags, which again I know is like hella early, like way too early, but that's just the kind of person I am, and I felt good about it. Week 32, I literally had one day where I was so tired I like couldn't function. It wasn't even really because I wasn't sleeping well. I definitely started not sleeping well, which we'll get to that, but I just like was so tired at some points where I was like, I can't do anything. I literally cannot function right now. A lot of Braxton Hicks, like all the time. He was having hiccups like every night. Sometimes even in the middle of the night I would notice his hiccups, like hiccups all day. I was kind of upset though, because again, I started measuring ahead. I was 32 weeks and I was measuring 36, but I didn't gain any weight from my 30 week to my 32 week appointment. So I didn't gain any weight, but I was measuring way ahead again. So I was kind of happy that I wasn't gaining weight, but I was also like, oh my gosh, why am I measuring like 4 weeks ahead again? That would just kind of frustrate me. We met with and interviewed our pediatrician that week. I just put that my outer thigh was so annoying at night, and it's still a problem. My outer thigh, like I told you, just always falls asleep and just gets on pins and needles, but it happens especially at night, and it like wakes me up. Again, not with like pain or anything, but just with like a general discomfort, and like can't really fix it. You have to like move around a lot to like, I don't know, get the blood flowing again or whatever the issue is. And I just put how annoying that was to deal with at night. And week 32 is when my lightning crotch started. And I know some people go their whole pregnancy without dealing with lightning crotch, but it is a real thing, and it is the most uncomfortable thing probably about pregnancy. I mean, the sweating I hate, but the lightning crotch hurts. Like, it hurts. Like, not like, you know, keeling over in pain by any means, but it really hurts. It literally feels like someone's like shoving a pencil right through like your pelvis. It is so uncomfortable, and there's obviously things you can do that exacerbate it and things you can do to avoid it. Same with round ligament pain. That's something I've been dealing with through most of the third trimester as well, especially at night when I like move in a weird position. I will just kind of twist, and the round ligament pain, like, it's kind of like a Charlie horse. It just hurts kind of like a lot for like a short period of time, and then it goes away. Same with lightning crotch. Oh my gosh, it is just so uncomfortable. And that's obviously from the baby like dropping down lower into your pelvis, and it's not fun. 33 weeks, literally just put more about my leg falling asleep and not driving me crazy. He's still having a ton of hiccups, like 2 to 3 times a day, which I kind of started getting concerned about because I was like, is this like fine? Is he like all right? And I don't know, if you do some, that's why Google is a bad idea, because if you Google something, it'll tell you that it means like the cord is compressed and all this stuff. But then you can also find plenty of articles that say it's fine. And I checked with my doctor and she said it's fine. So I got a little worried, but it wasn't necessary. And more lightning crotch. So then I didn't really have much for week 33, honestly. Week 34, I put that I can see him move in my belly from the outside with like basically every move he makes. And this is still so true, and I still get a kick out of this. There are some movements that I don't even feel, but I can see. And I put, it's absolutely amazing. I could stare at my belly all day. I just wish I knew which body parts were what. And that is so true, and that's what like was so weird to me. Sometimes I'll see my stomach move, but I don't feel it. And it's like, how are you moving in such a way that I can see my belly moving, but I don't feel that you're moving? It must be just such like a gradual kind of, it's literally almost like a whale, I think. You know, when like a dolphin or a whale just like slightly breaches the water to like breathe. I feel like it's like that. It's just like such a very like minimal little rumble or little touch that I can't even feel it, but I see my belly like jiggle like jello or something. And I'm like, oh my gosh, it really is so cool to see. But again, like I said earlier, I just really wish I knew, like, is that your elbow? Is that your shoulder? Is that a knee? Is that a foot? Like, I literally don't know. Even though I know what position he's in, I can't tell, because I don't know if he can kind of like twist on his, like, obviously he can't flip. I mean, he could, but that would be hard, especially with how big his head is, which we will get to that. But I don't know if he can twist, and so I don't know if like sometimes maybe his feet are over here, and then so I don't know. I really wish I could just tell what body part is what, but I have no clue. Still to this day, I have no clue. Still having heartburn. If I accidentally forget the Pepsid, I would have some serious heartburn. So heartburn was still a thing at 34 weeks. Still lightning crotch. At this point, I hadn't worked out in a couple weeks just because I was like so busy with all my nesting stuff, with decluttering and cleaning, and I was doing so much of that in these like early third trimester weeks. I was just doing so much nesting. I vlogged a lot of that, but we cleaned and decluttered every square inch of this entire house. It was a lot of work. It was exhausting, but honestly, it felt so good. And I just was doing that instead of working out, and honestly, that was a workout in itself. Plus, none of my workout clothes really fit me anymore, but I did get one workout in that week, and honestly, I think that was the last time I've worked out, was at 34 weeks. So it's been a minute. Everything just hurts with the sweat and the uncomfortability, and the lack of like clothing that fits me right now is just not a thing. And I also put, I've been literally so emotional, everything makes me cry. That's still true. And now we're at 35 weeks, which I basically have almost nothing for, except that I finally got some good movement footage like of my belly. It was so hard for me for the longest time. Typically, like without, like if I would pull my shirt up, I could get some like okay footage of him moving, but with a shirt on, I feel like I would see so many people post on like Instagram and stuff, like wearing a dress or a t-shirt. You could see the baby moving through their clothes, but it took me until 35 weeks to like be able to actually capture on camera him like moving like with clothes on. I don't know why. It was so hard to capture him. He would get stage fright, or I would just be like not paying attention close enough to whip out my camera. I would just be like kind of in the moment, or I wouldn't even notice that it's happening. And it took me so long to get like a good belly footage, and I was like getting frustrated and upset. I just didn't want to miss out on that. Like I wanted to have that memory and have that documented, and I was so worried that it was just never gonna happen. But as they get bigger, it's like impossible to not see all their movement. At like 35 weeks, it really started getting easier, not only to see it, but to also capture it. Because even when you can start seeing it with your own eyes, it's still hard a lot of times to get it on camera, just because the movements can be kind of subtle or kind of quick. But this is when it started getting a lot easier, and I felt so much better that I was actually able to capture it. This is also when I started having a lot of sleep trouble. Like I would just not sleep very well. I would wake up on my back, which not that I would freak out or anything, because I know it's not that big of a deal, but of course you have to like adjust and turn over. So I feel like that would kind of wake me up, or where I would just have, like I said, around ligament pain. I would have the lightning crotch. My leg would be falling asleep. I just like would wake up for no reason and then not be tired anymore. Like all the sleep issues kind of started right around this time. And then at 36 weeks, I put getting movement on video is much easier now. He's so active all the time. I had like a kind of a weird jump in my weight, like nothing concerning, not preeclampsia or anything, but I just kind of noticed like a weird jump in my weight, which I just like made note of. And I started having like slightly more swelling in my legs and my feet. Again, like nothing really noticeable, and I didn't have to wear like compression socks or anything, but I started noticing it a lot more. I put that I was having Braxton Hicks like almost around the clock. It wasn't really like just in the evenings anymore, and it started just being real consistent, which it still is. It's definitely more so in the evenings and at night, but for the most part, it's honestly like all day. And I, but like we can't really take walks anymore due to the lightning crotch and like the discomfort from the contractions. Like your belly just gets so hard and heavy when you're having a Braxton Hick that it's just kind of uncomfortable to be moving around. Like I literally feel like I have to carry my belly. It just gets so heavy and so tight, and the lightning crotch just hurts. It really does hurt, especially when you're moving a lot. So honestly, like walks were just getting so uncomfortable, and I know it's a good thing to do, especially towards the end of your pregnancy, to like get them to drop and to just like stay active, but walks were like a whole thing. I also made note, because I think this is so cute, the baby like totally responds to Ken talking to him and like laying with him. Like Ken will lay on my belly or lay next to me and talk to him like when we get in bed or when we're on the couch, and I swear the baby, like his activity actually picks up when he starts hearing Ken talk to him. And I'm sure he's probably sick of my voice, I'm sure he knows my voice, but he doesn't react to it because I'm talking all day long. But I swear when Ken starts talking to him and like saying his name and like getting really close to my belly and just like chatting with him, I swear he just like automatically wakes up and starts reacting. I don't know, it could totally be in my head or a coincidence, but I really think that's what's happening, and it is like the cutest, sweetest thing ever. And honestly, when I told Ken that like I was noticing that happen, he was so happy, and for days and days he was just like riding the high of the fact that he's like, oh my gosh, like he responds to me and he reacts to me and he moves when I talk to him, and he just got so excited knowing that like his son was recognizing him, or so we think. It was so cute. And then I had an OB appointment that week. We did the ultrasound, the strep B swab, blood work, everything was fine. They did do the strep B vaginally and anally. I didn't know they were going to do that. I had read that that's how they do it, but I didn't know if that's how they were going to do it, and they did. It really wasn't that bad, but just be prepared. That is how they do it. 37 weeks, my wedding rings officially like stopped fitting. Like I haven't worn any rings in a long time. I would like sometimes squeeze them on, but basically like starting 2-ish weeks ago, I just stopped trying with rings. They don't fit. And really exciting though, I went to my 37-week appointment and I was dilated to 1 centimeter. So that was exciting. The week before that, when she checked, I had not been dilated at all at 36 weeks. I thought I might be, because I've been having so many Braxton Hicks, and they kind of start preparing your cervix and your uterus. So I was hoping at 36 weeks I'd be dilated, but I wasn't. At 37 weeks I was 1 centimeter, which you can rock at 1 centimeter for like months and months, so honestly it's like not that big of a deal, but it was exciting to at least be making progress. But she said he was like not low at all. Like literally she like she had to really shove in there to feel where he was at, and she was like, he's not low at all. So she suggested doing like the squats and, you know, bouncing up and down, sitting on the little like pregnancy balls, curb walking. Like my doctor was like, those things actually do work, you should do them. So I was like, all right. So I started curb walking, I started squatting, I started like doing all the positions and all the little moves, like sitting kind of more forward, and I was like, I'm gonna get this baby to drop. And I put that I think it's working because I started feeling more pressure down there, like not more lightning, I mean a little bit more lightning crotch, but honestly just like general pressure I kind of started feeling. And I noticed that I was peeing a lot more frequently in like smaller amounts. So I felt like between the pressure and the fact that I was just peeing more often meant that he must be a little bit lower, because I feel like that would be the result of that. I definitely started noticing more swelling in my fingers and feet and ankles, but it was still pretty minimal at 37 weeks. It was just slightly more noticeable. And I also put that my leg seems to be falling asleep less, and I do still feel that way. I think it falls asleep less than it did late 2nd trimester, early 3rd trimester. Still happens like daily and nightly, but it seems like it's like less. So I don't know if he's kind of moved off of a nerve or whatever, but I do feel like that has changed a little bit. And I actually started like waking up to pee most nights, which I hadn't done since like early pregnancy. Like I feel like in the 1st trimester you start peeing a lot, and then I went months and months honestly without waking up to pee. And then now starting at 37 weeks, I was waking up to pee most nights, and honestly I still do. I would say probably like 5 nights a week I actually like wake up and get up to pee, so that was kind of not that fun of a new thing. And then I also put that I got like some random back pain occasionally, like nothing labor like or anything like that, and it wasn't even just when I was in a weird position. I would just be kind of doing something normal and I would just like feel kind of a weird back pain. So again, I know that's pretty normal, but I really haven't had much back pain at all throughout this pregnancy, which I feel like is a blessing because I know a lot of people struggle with back pain like throughout their whole pregnancy. It would just come on kind of randomly here and there. And then we're up to 38 weeks, so that was last week. I was still squatting and curb walking, and at my OB appointment, it actually worked. We literally like treated it like an experiment. Like, is this actually legit? Can I just get gravity to make him move? And he did. I literally put in all capitals that he dropped. I was still only 1 centimeter dilated and I was not effaced at all. So even though he dropped, I wasn't really progressing anywhere, at least not yet. So we did schedule the induction. I also noticed like a huge uptick in swelling in the last week, like huge. Like even right now, my like ankles and feet are quite swollen. It's definitely worse like at the end of the day, like when we kind of sit down to like watch a show or like have dessert or something. Ken has to put on my compression socks. This was actually the first week that I used compression socks. I had purchased them thinking I would need them sooner, and I never did. But I was glad I had them because I actually packed them in my hospital bag because I think I'm gonna need them for the hospital. I've heard you get like real swollen like during labor, and especially after delivery you can get really swollen. But I was like, am I really never gonna use these compression socks? I feel like I see people constantly needing them all throughout their pregnancy. Well, it took me until 38 weeks, but my feet started getting really swollen. My feet, my ankles, and even kind of like my calf area was getting really swollen. My hands would get not like as swollen. Nothing is as bad as what's going on down there. But my hands definitely swelling and just uncomfortable. Like even right now, they just feel kind of big and puffy. And like I said, I can't wear any of my rings. So compression socks made an appearance, not till 38 weeks, which I feel like is impressive. But then I started needing them like all the time. And honestly, it's so funny. I have to have Ken put them on because I can't bend over like that. And plus they're such a pain to put on. If y'all have ever put them on, I'm sure you probably know, especially when you're super swollen and you know, you have this gigantic like watermelon attached to you and you can't bend. It is so uncomfortable to get them put on. Like he literally is like wrestling with my leg. It's worse for him than it is for me, but they're kind of like, it's a whole production. I don't know if there's like a cheat code or an easier way to do it and we just haven't figured it out, but they are kind of a lifesaver. They just kind of make you feel supported. They definitely kind of help kind of distribute the swelling a little bit. But of course, because I have been swelling, I feel like I haven't been peeing as much because I do drink a lot of water and I feel like all the water is just staying in my body. Like I'm drinking a lot and then peeing only a little. And I was also just really emotional last week. Like I would watch anything on like Instagram about moms or babies or literally anything, and I would just like start bawling my eyes out. And honestly, that's still the case. As of this week at 39 weeks, I just like basically updated it for today and put that I'm still like not sleeping very well. I literally stayed up last night till 1:30 in the morning and then didn't sleep well and then woke up at like 5 and just like stayed up. So I'm not sleeping a lot of hours, but I'm also not like tired per se. Like I stayed up till 1:30 just because I wasn't sleepy yet. And even so far today, like I felt like, you know, a little bit low energy, but I'm not like super tired or like super sleepy. I feel functional and okay. So it's kind of weird. I'm not sleeping, but I'm also not super tired. And this morning I just made a note that I woke up with cramping, which is basically what I felt. I guess I didn't really go into detail, but I didn't sleep well last night, I think because I was just having kind of a crampy sensation. It was kind of similar to round ligament pain, but also not quite the same. It kind of felt like period cramps, but maybe a little bit more intense, but not like painful, just sort of like a dull discomfort. So I was like, maybe this is labor, because I know, you know, labor can start feeling just like period cramps, and you know, obviously it feels different for a lot of people. Some people feel it more in their back or whatever, but it went away. Like once I got up, I kind of like walked around, I peed, I went to the closet, and then like it kind of went away pretty soon after. So I don't know if it maybe was kind of more intense Braxton Hicks or just kind of some false labor, or maybe just from how I was sleeping it was just round ligament pain that was just like bothering me a lot more than normal. I don't know. I like legit considered the fact that I might be in labor, but I didn't want to wake up my husband unless I was sure, and I don't feel it anymore, like ever since it stopped this morning. So I don't think it was anything very noteworthy, but I don't know, it kind of was like a little bit of a reality check when I'm like, wait, he actually can come anytime, because in my head he's just coming on our scheduled induction date. But then I was like, wait, it could literally happen any minute, but it didn't. But of course I told Ken and he's like freaking out. He's like, well, how are you feeling now? Oh my gosh. And then he was all emotional this morning, like just thinking about him actually coming and the day actually being here. And he would like saw some video or like a reel of someone announcing they're pregnant and he was all emotional. So we're all just kind of a hot mess. If everything goes according to, you know, our schedule right now, I will go in for my induction exactly 1 week from today in the evening around like 7 o'clock. And then I should have the baby, you know, the following day typically. You know, they put you on all the medication and all that kind of stuff. So basically almost around this time next week, we'll be kind of packing up the car. And then a week from tomorrow, I will probably have a child in my arms, which I still cannot believe. I'm so excited. It just doesn't like seem real still. Like it took me so long to even just come to terms with like, wow, I'm actually pregnant. This is like the best thing ever. And then I feel him, you know, I talk to him all the time, but the fact that he's actually gonna like be here and I'm gonna meet him, just my mind can't wrap around it. Like there is no capabilities in my brain that can square those circles. So anyway, I'm so excited. I guess I'll give you all a little bump date real quick. So this shirt isn't like super tight, but here's the 39-week bump. Is this like a good way to show it? I feel like I can't like necessarily get it in all its glory quite yet, but there is the whole bump. He's doing the most. He is large and in charge. And I actually just realized I didn't mention this, and I meant to, but at my 36-week OB appointment, when I said I did the ultrasound and the strep B swab and the blood work, that was when, like I said, we had an ultrasound, and that was when we realized that like I said, he's always ran kind of big. But she was like, have you been told that he has like a big head? And I was like, honestly, no. Like I've always, you know, known he's a little bit like, you know, he was in the 75th and then the 68th percentile. So like he's always been a little big, but apparently his head is in the 99th percentile. Like his head's literally as big as they come, basically. So when I found that out, I said to my doctor, I was like, we need to talk about this. Because obviously I want to, you know, I want to have him vaginally, and I would like to be able to get his head out of me. And the 99th percentile kind of freaks me out, even though I know their head, obviously like bones all move and stuff to make it easier to come out. So I know it's not that big of a concern, but also like just knowing that I have a baby with a massive head, which is honestly not surprising because in my family, like my side of the family, big heads are just a thing. My dad's head is huge. My head's real big. So I'm honestly not surprised, but I honestly didn't expect that, and no one had mentioned it before then. And he was measuring almost at 8 pounds. She did a couple measurements, so it was like 7 pounds and 12 ounces, or maybe 7 pounds 11 ounces, and then 7 pounds 14 ounces. So almost 8 pounds, and he was in like the, even though his head was in the 99th percentile, his like overall percentile was like 83 to 86, depending on how she was doing the measurements. So that's when we found out that he like is big. I still am like a little bit concerned about getting him out. And obviously those measurements, I mean, I think the head measurements probably very accurate, but in terms of the weight in ultrasound measurements, that's all kind of just like a best guess. It's not like extremely accurate. It's not known to be extremely accurate, so he could easily be way less. There's really no way to know, but the fact that his head is so big, and obviously your head is the heaviest part of you. I actually just read that today, that the baby's head accounts for like 1/3 of their weight. So obviously with a big head, you're just gonna weigh more. So I'm not sure that he's necessarily like huge like in the body. I think maybe just his big head kind of skews his weight a little bit higher. Anyway, I think we're gonna have a big-headed, potentially just like large-ish baby. I mean, 8.5 pounds is not big. I know it's kind of falls within like the normal, the higher end of normal, I guess. I don't know. And so obviously depending on when he comes, if he keeps like gaining a little weight, I don't know what to expect. So anyway, yeah, I think we're expecting a big-headed baby. Welcome to the club, bro. He and I will definitely have that in common. He definitely gets that from his mom. So that's pretty much all the updates I think that I have to share. 1 week, like literally 7 days, the countdown is on, which I still cannot believe. I will definitely be posting. I've filmed all my bump like progressions. I've filmed a bump update every 2 weeks. So I will have my bump progression video going up. Of course, we will be vlogging and documenting the birth and all of those things coming home and all of that. So those will definitely be coming. And I still have other pregnancy related content coming. I feel like this is a lot of talking, and honestly I need some water. My throat is so dry from being so chatty. And again, I hope this footage came out okay. I hope y'all enjoyed it. Definitely let me know down below if y'all have experienced any of like similar weird things, like with your leg falling asleep or anything like that. Like if you've had similar weird stuff or similar not weird stuff, or just like completely different symptoms, I would love to know. We can all just like chat about how weird pregnancy is, because it's a weird thing. It's a weird time. It's amazing and it's glorious and it's beautiful, but it's definitely weird. So definitely let me know, and thank you so much for watching. I hope that y'all enjoyed. If you would like to subscribe, we would love to have you. We have so much fun here. And until next time, I will see y'all in our next video. Bye guys.